Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Unarmored Talk podcast, where we will have real life conversations to help you develop an accurate way of thinking. And the way we're going to do this is by understanding how feelings, emotions, and thoughts can influence the outcome of a personal or professional challenge. We are blessed to have Margaret Kibben. I know she's going to probably look at me like, why am I the Margaret Kibben? So, Margaret, can you tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hey, Mario, thanks so very much for this opportunity. I've had a wonderful life, and part of it, a good part of it, has been as a Navy chaplain, serving half my career with Marines. As you know, the Navy chaplains serve both of those wonderful services. And at the tail end of my career, I had the opportunity to be the 18th chaplain of the Marine Corps.
18th
to
chaplain.
follow that, I was the 26th Chief of Navy Chaplains.
26th
retired. 26th. Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. Both very lucky numbers. And I retired in the fall of 2018, so just about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And here we are.
Wow. 26 and 18. Those are two lucky numbers. And I know you blessed a lot of Marines and sailors in some good times and bad times. So thank you for your service, man. I appreciate that, Margaret.
Truly my honor. My honor, you know.
So let's get right into the topic. I mean, you know,
right.
You had a personal challenge when you were diagnosed, when you took the test for COVID, the coronavirus, and you tested positive. So let's talk about that personal challenge. Let's dive into it. Talk to me about it.
Sure. Well, let me give you a little background. It was early March. My husband and daughter had gone off to England for some during her spring break. I had a speaking engagement in California, and we both arrived home around March 12th, which, as you well know, is right at the beginning when things started to get really squirrely.
Right.
And people were really concerned. I think it's interesting. There was more concern on the West Coast than there was on the East Coast. And when I showed up into San Diego, we were, everybody was very careful. We weren't to the mask stage yet, but certainly no handshaking, and there was Purell everywhere.
Margaret, now that wasn't the time when we had lunch, was it?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Okay, we'll leave that for another episode.
But obviously, I was not symptomatic at that point, and not carrying anything because you ended up unscathed.
Wow.
But you may recall, London turned out to be a hotspot right at that very same week.
Right.
So Tim and Lindsay and I all arrived at home pretty much the same day on March 12th. March 13th, I went off to Newport, Rhode Island for another speaking engagement, came back the very next day. And the following week, we're just fat, dumb, and happy, and we're enjoying quarantine at home because, the government wasn't letting us come in. But my husband's a government contractor, and I have an opportunity to work at the Pentagon for a period of time. Daughter was home from school. And so we're all just kind of hanging out with each other. And I got a weird sinus headache. So I run down to my doctor. He gives me some antibiotics for my sinus headache.
Right. And Margaret, I'm assuming you, like, the sinus headache is not normal for you.
No, it is actually. So it wasn't surprising. Wow. So I've had sinus headaches. And so I said, oh, that's what this is. It was perfectly normal. And at the same time, my husband started to feel a little congestion. And he's sort of prone to pneumonia. About once every couple of years, he'll get pneumonia. So we're thinking he's got pneumonia and I've got a sinus headache. But the medical wouldn't let him go down to see the doctor because he'd been in London.
Right. And so he had to quarantine.
Exactly. So I started to feel really funky after a day or two on this antibiotic. And I thought, because I referred to Dr. Google, who, of course, is the expert in all things medical.
Dr. Who? I never heard that one. I'm going to have to steal that one from you. Dr.
That's right.
Google.
That's exactly right. Well, the renowned physician, Dr. Google, told me that, one could have a reaction to antibiotics. So that's what I was sure that I had.
Okay. Called
the doctor, said, hey, I'm having this really weird reaction. I felt like I woke up and I was 100 years old. I couldn't move a muscle. I couldn't move a joint. Sinus headache was fading out. But he says, yeah, it probably is. Let's switch antibiotics. And I said, oh, by the way, my husband's got these really weird symptoms. They kind of sound like, because this is really early on. Remember, this is early March. We didn't have all the checklists of things. I said, maybe, could be, possibly, but they won't let him come in. He says, oh, well, we have a drive-through right now for the tests. Why don't you, he sent him down there. And I said, well, just for grins and giggles, could I take the test too? We have a daughter with compromised health.
Right.
And let's just for the, for the safety of our whole family, can I take the test? He says, well, sure, but you don't have it.
So
So
I'm assuming at this point you're kind of arrogant. You're right. You're like, we don't have it. This.
yeah, call it arrogance, call it ignorance, but we were just, as I say, fat, dumb, and happy.
Yeah.
And so we hire ourselves on down to medical, and we go through the drive-through. They interview us. They interviewed Tim. They said, sure enough, you better take the test. We're certain you have it. They say to me, well,
Wow.
what's your problem? And I said, I laid it all out. They said, oh, you don't have it, and we're not going to give you the test. And I said, well, the doctor said maybe, and we have a daughter with compromised health, and could you just for our own well-being, give us the test? Sure, okay, fine. Because they were being very parsimonious about those tests at that point because there weren't many.
Right.
And so I said, so great. So now we are 5 days waiting for these test results. Remember, we're still at home. We're all within spitting distance of each other.
Right.
Tim's symptoms have disappeared. I'm still feeling funky.
And I know you,
but
and I know you mentioned your daughter, who's I want to say 22.
She's 23 now. She was 22 at the time, exactly.
And you mentioned the big issue is because she has some type of compromise.
She has cystic fibrosis.
Got it. Okay.
So that's all lung stuff, right? And so
right. Yeah.
But we were being careful. We, for the most part, I mean,
Right.
we were wiping down counter surfaces and mostly covering our coughs and doing those sort of things. But overall, we really weren't being any different than we used to be.
Right.
And then I got the call first, and I had COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. And my husband's call came the next day, but on my day, I got to tell you, my daughter was ticked off at me.
Wow.
And obviously there are more feelings than just being mad, but she was
right.
she immediately went back, because she's a scientist, and she went back and she said, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you did this, you did this, and she laid it all out about how I had put her at risk.
So, right. So your child put you on report.
Absolutely. You want to talk about being unarmored? I mean, she just cut me to the quick. I mean, there was a gap in my Kevlar, and she found it.
You became the follower. She was the leader. She like, no, you gonna listen to me. She was a chaplain.
Exactly, but no, she was not a chaplain. She was the sergeant major. But at that point, the horse is out of the barn. There's nothing we can do. I mean, if she's going to be exposed, she's been exposed. Right. We're talking 10 days.
Wow.
And so she went around the house being super, super mad at us. Of course, then Tim's results came back, being super mad at us. I mean, wouldn't talk to us. She, not even a hi, how are you feeling today? There was no empathy, sympathy, generosity, nothing on her part. Of course,
and I bet you that was tough, Margaret. That you're the mom, right? You're the parent. And no matter what, you didn't do it on purpose. So, I mean, how did you become aware of your emotion, maybe of anger, anxiety, or whatever? How did you deal with that when you have your 3-year-old just blaming you for something?
Well, that's a keen observation. For one, as a mother, you say, I've raised my daughter to be compassionate, and look what I get. I get nothing. I get a sergeant major. Worse. It's worse than a sergeant major. It's more like a recalcitrant lance corporal. And so she how did I deal with it? I was mad. Right. I didn't feel well. Right. And so I was feeling a little sorry for myself. I have now been told I have COVID. We don't know enough about the disease to know how it's going to progress. Is my life in danger? I don't know.
Right.
And I'm thinking, don't you realize my life is in danger? You should love me for these last days.
Right. Let's apply some thought here. All right. Got it.
Exactly.
But mom's not 20.
Stop worrying about yourself. Worry about me. So yeah, I was a little self-absorbed in those times too. So, and then we finally had literally a come to Jesus moment, where we sat down in our living room, now socially distanced, and just said, okay, what's going on? And it took a little teasing out, but it came out, and being the scientist she said, well, this could have happened, this could happen, and it's all about her health and her well-being, and we certainly get that, obviously. I mean, this is something we've lived with all her life. But the problem for me and for my husband was, well, where is God in this? And she was not, and she's always been a very faithful person. And when I say faithful, I'm not saying she goes to church every Sunday.
Right.
I'm saying she has a depth of faith that
Right.
has frankly been a testimony to her nurses and doctors throughout her lifetime without her even trying.
Right.
Just her essence has just been one of hope and of resilience, and there was none of that. None.
Wow.
And we're thinking, oh my gosh, now that she's an adult, she's lost faith. So
Yeah.
so
Wow.
that was an even deeper pain for
Yeah.
both of us. Can you not see that God is here?
Right.
And she was like, the science tells me this. God is
Wow.
saying nothing.
Wow. So before the COVID-19, before the positive test, you really, did you ever have a circumstance that made you go, is my daughter losing faith, spiritual faith, due to science? Like, or was this the first time that you guys kind of got hit with this?
Well, there were little hints of it, and
Yeah.
part of it is it her faith, or is it she's growing up? Because
Right.
as parents, we say things to our children, and they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. When they're
Right.
younger, they go, oh, that's wonderful. But when you're 22, 23, you now know everything, and your parents know nothing. So we were kind of going through that
Right.
phase just in general, and faith was a part of that.
Right.
And she was not as articulate in her faith recently as she had been in the past.
Mm.
So there was certainly evidence of it, but it was never so slap us up in the face.
Yeah.
Um,
So how do you, so I'm an animated person. So I wear my emotions on my face a lot.
yes.
When my kids, when my adult children say things that I'm like, the hell are you talking about? I wear my emotions. So how did you keep your emotions from coming out and making her think that you're confused or whatever?
Well, I don't know in this case that I should have kept my emotions hidden, and so I didn't.
Okay,
Um,
got it.
my face, my countenance completely fell.
Right.
I was devastated,
Yeah.
and yet I also know in my own faith that God is working through this moment to minister to her in a way she can't see.
Right.
And that's what I held on to, is that this is a moment that is not the end of life as we know it. Well, it
Right.
may be the end of life as we know it, but it's not the end of faith as we know it.
Yes.
It is a beginning. It's an opportunity, because out of doubt comes faith, right? And we were in the depths of doubt in this moment. We were doubting her, she was doubting God, and
Wow.
so you can't just say, oh, there's nothing here. Oh no, it's very much there. And I think emotions are God's gifts of for us to be able to communicate
Right.
really what's going on. And so that's what we did in our little living room. We all emoted all over the floor,
Right.
and there was crying, there was anger, there was yelling, which is not a
Right.
big thing in our house, by the way. We're not yellers.
Right.
And yet there were very loud voices, and yet there was also there was quiet, there was tears, there was everything.
And and a lot of people wouldn't even think, oh, you're the 26, chaplain of the Marine Corps, if I got that right, and
18th chaplain of the Marine Corps.
or 18th, I'm sorry, and the
I'll
26th
come
chief
back.
of,
I'll be the 26th.
yeah, and people wouldn't think you're a rear admiral, you're
Got
doing
it all together.
You got it all together. There's no way that COVID-19 or any circumstance could create conditions where there is turmoil in your house, chaplain, right?
Right. Well, welcome to humanity, of which we are all a part, right? And why wouldn't we be tested?
Right.
And frankly, I have a theory that says, the adversary must know we're doing something right, or he wouldn't be working so hard to thwart it.
Absolutely.
And I do feel that was what was going on. Our strength has always been the bond of our family. Our strength has always been that bond which is grounded in faith.
Right.
And yet that's what was shaken. That's where he was coming in to kind of attack.
Yeah. And if you had a chance looking back, going all the way back to March and speeding up to today, if you had a chance to do it all over again, what would you say you would have done different as far as the way you thought about things, your emotions, feelings, whatever, how would you have done it different, you think, in your mind?
Right. Well, practically you go through that in your head, because honestly, we don't know who brought it in the house.
Right.
Was it me? Was it Tim?
We'll blame it on,
was it Lindsay?
Tim.
We don't know.
We'll blame
So,
it on
we
Tim.
did well, I've tried many times, and he's continually blamed it on me, but we can point fingers. But so we played the blame game, and Lindsay did too, for quite some time, and realized that was getting us nowhere. But if to go back to do things differently, you can do the what if I could have, on the physical stuff, but on the emotional stuff, I think that's a great question. And this caught us up so fast that we never really stopped to say, what if one of us comes down with COVID? We'd never had that discussion.
Right.
Again, they were traveling, I was traveling. It hadn't hit the East Coast as hard as it had in other areas. So we never war gamed this ever.
Right. Well, no, thank you. Thank you, Margaret, for sharing that. And, you got me thinking now in my own family is that there's a lot of things, COVID-19 or just an accident can happen tomorrow. But
sure.
There's a lot of times I haven't applied thought to the what if. And then emotions take over and I make emotional decisions.
Oh, yeah.
But so thank you for sharing that. And no, that is wonderful. I do have one last question before we wrap up, if that's okay with you, Margaret.
Sure.
Who's the best chaplain that's ever served in the Navy? Unarmored.
There are some awesome chaplains out there, and I would not say it as I can't. I know you're teasing that out of me, but I'll tell you what, there are some we have our heroes. There are ships named after chaplains. There are, folks so I don't even know if we as a chaplain corps, let me put it at this. The chaplain corps as a whole is the best chaplain in the
awesome.
Navy Corps.
No, I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Margaret Kibben on Unarmored Talk podcast, as she highlighted a positive test for the coronavirus, revealed a lot of things that her husband, her daughter did not even realize. And they were able to take emotions, feelings, and thought and have a positive outcome from a very, very challenging personal situation. Until next time, Margaret, do you have anything closing to say to our viewers and listeners?
Of course I do. I was taught that in my public affairs school. Never let them have the last word.
Absolutely.
I have two last words. Yesterday was the Navy birthday, in case you were wondering. And so I have a nautical phrase I want to share with you that ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. So don't let what's happening around you get inside you.
Powerful. I like that. Can I take it?
So you can take it. And here's a scripture, because I'm a chaplain, from Isaiah 43. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned.
Awesome. And your book?
So I was actually asked right after this, to contribute to a book called Living into Your Next Season, Moving Forward After the Crisis of 2020. It's a compilation of essays of people who are going in through transition during this time frame, and some of the challenges they faced, but more importantly, what they leaned on to find their own sense of resilience and hope. And it's found on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's all the proceeds go to the Foundation for the National Student Nurses Association. I don't get any cut from this, neither does the editor. But if you want to look into that, it's Living into Your Next Season, Moving Forward After the Crisis of 2020.
No, thanks, Margaret. I truly enjoyed having you on Unarmored Talk today. And I don't salute anymore. I just raised the mic up to you.
Well, excellent. Thank you. I'd raise a glass, but I don't have one. I have my water bottle.
We'll do that. We'll do that on the next episode.
Sounds great. Hey, thanks so much, Marion. Thanks for what you're doing. And to all of you who are listening to Mario's podcast, keep your head up, because you will find yourself unarmored at some point, but not without hope.
Amen. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.